To resume. Senator Cash.
Thank you. And if I could just return to the line of questioning in relation to the Minister for the Environment yet again delaying the decision in relation to the North West Shelf gas extension until the 31st of May after the election. I just want to table Senator Wong just to ensure that for the benefit of the committee, the dates that we've been talking about are on the record. It is an article printed off today but dated Thursday the 12th of December 2024. WA Environment Minister Rhys Whitby approves a 50-year extension of the North West Shelf gas project.
Yes, Senator, that's what I said. The state government approved it on the 12th of December after, I think, a 6-year process. As I understand it, and I'll just clarify the date, I think I said the 12th. I believe that I'm advised that the Commonwealth received the critical technical report that they had requested on the 5th of February. Right. But what I would say to you, Senator, is these are matters for a different department. This department and this Minister, the Prime Minister, obviously is not the Minister responsible for this process.
I completely understand that, and the relevant paragraphs of the letter. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Australian Government's Department of Climate Change, Energy and the Environment and Water said the WA EPA's decision on the North West Shelf project extension recommenced the statutory decision time-making frame under national environmental law. The Minister has 30 days to make a decision on the North West Shelf project extension. Senator, I understand the Prime Minister is not the relevant minister, but he is the Prime Minister. This is an issue not just of national importance but of significant importance to Western Australia. Hence, my line of questioning in terms of the Prime Minister's knowledge of the Minister for the Environment's decision to yet again delay the granting or not of the approval to extend. Was the Prime Minister or his office aware that the further announcement of the delay in making the decision would be pushed out on budget day?
So the question is, was the Prime Minister or his office aware of when the Minister for the Environment would make public that decision?
Correct.
All right, I'll take that on notice.
Okay. I think Senator McGrath's got a line of questioning now.
Senator McGrath.
Thank you. In the last round of estimates, Senator Wong, you refused to answer some pretty basic questions on whether the Prime Minister was briefed following the discovery of a caravan laden with explosives in Dural. On the 10th of March of this year, the AFP Deputy Commissioner, Chrissy Barrett, published a detailed statement on Operation Kissinger. The AFP disclosed there was an incident that we've been referring to was a fabricated terrorism plot by organised criminals. And Ms Barrett stated, "We believe the person pulling the strings wanted changes to their criminal status but maintained a distance from their scheme and hired alleged local criminals to carry out parts of their plan. However, the plan was foiled. An AFP operational strategy is in place to take action against this individual, and I won't make any further comment on that. A number of people have been identified as part of this fake terrorism plot, and the AFP is working with local and overseas law enforcement officials in our bid to have all of those responsible brought to justice." And that's the end of the quote. Given these developments, I ask again, on what date and approximately what time was the Prime Minister first notified about this incident?
Well, if I could make a point about Dural, it is the case that the facts of the case, which have now been disclosed by the AFP publicly, indicate the fabrication, I think it was the phrase used, I think that was the quote. Obviously that doesn't detract from the fear, nevertheless, that was generated by the reports and the publicity, particularly for the Australian Jewish community. So I'd make that point first. Secondly, the principled approach the government has taken and the Prime Minister has been to ensure, unlike others, that we gave the AFP and the New South Wales and other police forces the appropriate space and, frankly, confidentiality to do their work properly. I regret that that was not your approach, Senator McGrath. And I'd refer you to the AFP evidence on the previous occasion about that. Like, you and your colleagues persisted in asking questions despite the fact that the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police said that that did have the potential to compromise the investigation. And what that speaks to is frankly... What that speaks to, Senator, is that you were more interested in a political hit than in actually the police finding out who did it. Because you were told by the police they did not want to discuss this.
That's actually not what the police said. It's just extraordinary.
No, well, it is actually. I would refer you to the evidence of the police in the Home Affairs estimates on the last occasion.
The police did
not
say...
I was very clear on the last occasion. We believe our national security agencies, including the Australian Federal Police, working where appropriate with state and territory police forces, should be allowed to do their jobs. And their jobs are not benefited, in fact potentially hindered, by politicians who seek to make political points, as you did.
Senator Wong, the AFP evidence was very clear. It did not relate to when the Prime Minister was told. Our questions have
that is a lie,
we're trying to have a respectful dialogue here.
That is not true.
All of our questions went to when the Prime Minister was told. None of our questions went to operational matters.
No, Senator, this is the problem. You did not listen to what the AFP said. And the Commissioner's statement at the commencement of Home Affairs estimates on the last occasion went precisely to the distinction you have just sought to make and pointed out why he still did not want to answer those questions, because it did go potentially to knowing when people knew certain details, including the police. And my point to you about this is, we should allow the authorities to do their work. You were told that this had the potential to compromise operations, and you asked questions anyway, and it says something about the recklessness and the risk that the Dutton opposition engages in when it comes to national security.
Well, the Prime Minister has been very open in other terrorism incidents around the country in terms of saying when he was being briefed by the AFP. So are you saying the Prime Minister is reckless when it comes to issues of national security?
No, I'm saying the Prime Minister listens to the advice of security agencies. Mr Dutton and his front bench do not.
When the Prime Minister was told about an alleged terrorism incident, does not go to operational matters, in particular when the New South Wales Labor Premier was more than upfront in advising when he was told. So are you saying that the New South Wales Labor Premier is reckless?
Senator, I refer you to the evidence of the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police and other officers before Home Affairs last estimates in relation to all of those matters.
Are you saying that the New South Wales Labor Premier was reckless because he advised the citizens of New South Wales as to the date when he was advised of the alleged terrorism incident?
Senator, what I am saying is that Mr Dutton and you and your colleagues have been demonstrably willing to not heed the advice of the AFP on multiple occasions, over and over again in question time, over and over again in this estimates, and you're still doing so today. That's what
the AFP's advice does not go to when the Prime Minister...
You obviously have not read the Hansard.
I've read the advice.
I bet you have not read the Hansard.
Please read out the line where it says... Read out the line where it says the Prime Minister being advised, the release of when the Prime Minister... of the date of when the Prime Minister was advised of a terrorism incident should not be made public. Please read that line out.
Senator, we went around this on multiple occasions on the last occasion. Since then, the police have made public the factual nature, factual basis, or the facts, some of the facts of this case. There was a subsequent discussion after the estimates on the last occasion in this portfolio in Home Affairs. I would refer you to that, and I have nothing further to add on this.
So notwithstanding the release of certain information by the relevant security agencies, you're still refusing to say when the Prime Minister was first told. We just want to know the date.
No, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that your recklessness with this issue, over and over again, in the chamber and in estimates, despite what the AFP said, really was a new level of willingness to compromise national security.
So
and you
time...
continued it for days, and you have been found out. No. I refer you, Senator, to the evidence of the AFP on the last occasion, and on this I have nothing further to add.
I think
Done.
I think you've been found out with respect to the Prime Minister, and so has the Prime Minister, that you claim to lead a government of transparency, and yet when it comes to a very simple question as to when the Prime Minister was first told of an alleged security incident, that for some reason, and no one can work out why, that you refuse to release that date.
Senator.
And with respect, the advice from the AFP and the other security agencies does not explicitly rule out releasing the date of when the Prime Minister was first told. It is not an operational matter.
Senator,
Minister.
That was the line you ran and Senator Patterson ran at the last estimates, and the AFP had a clear response to it. So, you know, all I'm saying is I think everybody looking at this, you went at it every day until the facts came out, and you dropped off it because it wasn't politically convenient. It wasn't politically convenient for you to listen to what the Australian Federal Police had to say, and you continued despite that. I think it is an example yet again of the recklessness and the risk of a Dutton government. You simply do not, you're not prepared to do the right thing when it comes to Australian national security. You always want to play the political game. And you are doing it again.
Well, I think your characterisation of the Labor Premier of New South Wales is unfair. And perhaps your characterisation of the Prime Minister when he has previously released the dates of when he has received advice from security agencies. So what is the difference between other incidents and this particular incident? Why is the Prime Minister able to release the date in relation to other incidences and not in relation to this particular?
Well, unlike you, we listen to national security agencies. You asked me, you clearly haven't read what was the statement, but I'll read you the relevant bit. From the Commissioner of the last estimates, which is what I referred you to. Finally, I expect you will want to ask the AFP questions about Operation Kissinger, which is our investigation into a caravan found in January in New South Wales, and Operation Hillfield, the investigation into the arson of the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne last year. I understand there is great interest in these investigations. However, I will not provide updates in public forums. Detail provided, whether it seems innocuous or not, can have an impact on investigations, including giving a suspect insight into what we knew and when, and what processes triggered expected tasks. We are unapologetic that our main priority remains identifying the offenders and bringing them before the courts. The AFP and partners will provide an update at appropriate time. But you didn't listen to that. I mean, that's what I found.
With respect, Minister,
you know,
that backs up my case.
You know,
that backs up my case.
That
you
said which
totally backs my case up.
Senator
Senator
McGrath, can I finish?
Of course.
You know that you continued to ask questions after that statement was made. Like, what sort of responsible politician, when a police officer says that, continues to ask questions? And that's what you did.
No,
that is what you did, Senator McGrath. That is what Senator Cash and Senator Patterson continue to do. What sort of responsible political leader, when a police officer says that, continues to ask questions?
It is
unbelievable.
Of when the Prime Minister
and I think
told.
Everybody watching this will know it's because Senator McGrath and Peter Dutton and James Patterson and others put political interest above national interest
You're
and
saying that
above
Chris
the
Minns does
interests of law enforcement.
That's what Chris Minns
Like,
did.
why would you not put the interests of law enforcement first?
But you said during...
People can answer that question for themselves.
Previously, you've said during the investigation that you couldn't release the date because it was an operational matter. Now that it's no longer an operational matter, why are you still hiding from the Australian people about when the Prime Minister was first briefed on this?
Senator, I've responded. I'm not responding any further.
with all due respect,
I've responded on this.
you haven't responded. That is a very clear question. You said during the investigation that you couldn't release the date because it was an operational matter. Now that it is no longer an operational matter, why are you still hiding from the Australian people when the Prime Minister was first briefed by this?
Well, I refer to the AFP's evidence on the last occasion.
Well, we're not on the last occasion. We're here today.
Well, I refer to the AFP evidence.
Well, that's from a previous time.
Sure.
Events have occurred since then. Statements have been made. Why are you unable to now tell the committee and the Australian people when the Prime Minister was first briefed?
Well, I refer you to previous evidence. I'm just
So we're not. So we're going to an election, and the Australian people are not going to be made aware of when the Prime Minister was first briefed in relation to this incident.
And the Prime Minister has answered questions in question time about this, Senator. So I refer you to those answers.
Yes,
but what I would say, Senator, what I would say is this. We are going to an election, and the Australian people can see, one, the Prime Minister who takes the advice of agencies and who, frankly, weathered your political attack because he knew it was the right thing to do, and you, Mr Dutton, Senator McGrath, Senator Patterson, who put politics ahead of law enforcement. That is what the Australian people can see.
I need to rotate the call now, colleagues. Senator Sheldon.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to ask some questions regarding Cabinet and managing conflicts of interest. Is it relevant?
Two different teams, Senator. So if you start the question, I'll.
You'll get it. Oh, good. Thanks. I just want to go to managing conflicts of interest in regarding a cabinet minister. So I just want to go to the cabinet handbook to start with.
Thanks.
No, I have the cabinet handbook 15th edition with me, and I understand that currently, can you just confirm this, that a minister must declare any matter that may give rise to a real or perceived conflict of interest?
Thank you for the question, Senator Sheldon. Pauline Sullivan, First Assistant Secretary, Cabinet Division. Yes, that's correct.
That's paragraph 85.
Sorry?
Is that paragraph 85? I understand.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And also, the ministers must declare these at Cabinet with meetings where matters are under discussion that could give rise to a conflict of interest, and that's paragraph 86. Is that correct?
That is correct, Senator.
And also, ministers are required to adopt a broad interpretation, so pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests, including the interests of family members, should be included.
That is correct, yes, as per 87.
Paragraph 87.
Paragraph 87.
Yeah. So just on the question of pecuniary interest, does that mean financial gain or loss? Is that correct?
As set out in between paragraphs 85 and 88, there is a reference to the Code of Conduct for Ministers, so that covers off the nature of, so in line with that, and it's also set out in 87. So pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests of family members and all interests of their own when considering a matter. And then there is further detail within the Code of Conduct for Ministers around specific issues as well, such as directorships and so forth.
And that would go to questions of, as I understand it, automatically absenting themselves from a meeting and how that might be dealt with?
So certainly under this edition of the Cabinet Handbook, there's no require to automatically absent themselves, and it's up to the Chair of the Cabinet or Cabinet Committee to decide,
That's right.
in consultation with the Cabinet Secretary, whether to excuse the Minister when that issue is under consideration.
And they should explicitly agree to that, whether that happens or not. Is that correct?
Under the terms of the Cabinet Handbook, yes, that is correct.
Thanks. And then these guidelines have been broadly consistent for the past decade or so?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Right,
The only reason I put that caveat on it is I've only been in the job for 2 months.
right.
So, but yes, I think it would be safe to say that it is a broadly consistent throughout the various editions of the handbook.
And those declarations, of course, including family members as well?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. I'm happy to take that on notice and confirm that, looking through previous editions.
Just as I understand that, the guidelines say it will not normally be necessary to repeat that declaration in subsequent Cabinet discussions unless a significant time has elapsed since the declaration and the interest is one that might not be well known to colleagues. So it's, as I understand, it's been there
Yes,
for
that
some
is
considerable
correct.
time.
Yeah.
And probably my point's, obviously prior to this government in existence, that declaration.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Look, under the former Abbott, Turnbull and Morrison governments, the Ministerial Code of Conduct did not restrict ministers from owning shares or having financial interests in private or public companies. Is that correct?
I would need to take that on notice.
Is there someone there, Mr. Here, that can answer that?
I'm just looking at the 14th edition now, so if I can just check, Senator.
Senator Andrew Walter, First Assistant Secretary, Government Division. If I recall correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but the ministerial standards, which was the document used by the former government, did allow for shareholdings in certain circumstances, but you did need to declare them under the process set out in the standards. But I don't have the standards in front of me, so I'm just...
Yeah, I won't go to specifics, and if I do, I'll ask to take it on
The
notice.
only significant change, if I recall correct, well, no, let me rephrase. The current Code of Conduct for Ministers and the Statement of Ministerial Standards covers fairly similar ground, but there are some differences. One of the big differences was the use of blind trusts. So the current government prohibited the use of blind trusts, which was, if I recall correctly, allowed under the
But in the broad...
standards.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Sorry, that's it.
So just in the broad context that the Minister's Code of Conduct did not restrict ministers from owning shares or having financial interests in private or public companies in its broadest context.
No, that's right. It had some management provisions in it,
Yes.
including declarations and so forth, and of course the Cabinet Handbook is the same, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But
So,
again, I don't have it in.
So I'm just clear in my head. Ministers could have a personal financial interest in a particular business, for example, or own shares in a public company.
I'm sorry, Senator, I really have to go and look at the standards again to confirm that. It's been a while since we don't look at them because the Code of Conduct is the current instrument.
So you're asking questions about the previous Code of Conduct?
That's
well, there was quite a lot of focus by the Prime Minister in changing and elevating the obligations on ministers. Perhaps we can come back to this when Mr Walters had a chance to look at the previous, because I think the point of the improvement in the standards is an important one. Well, says the man who's not really been on budget estimates at all for most of the morning.
National security is budget estimates.
Well, you're refusing to listen to national security agencies.
I do
Budget
listen to national
estimates,
security
Senator.
agencies, I suspect. This is
bizarre.
intriguing. I think we all know where this is going.
Correct.
What I've got so far, if I understand this correctly, and that is that owning a shares or having financial interests in private public companies is something that would be declared, if I understand correctly from the evidence so far. And presumably there's an obligation to disclose.
Sorry, Senator, could you...
And presumably there's an obligation to disclose.
Under the former standards?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So there was a obligation to disclose. Just want to then go to there's been quite a bit of media coverage over a period of time. I just want to clarify a few things here, and also just go to some of that coverage that has been raised already, and particularly regarding whether Mr Dutton had recused himself.
Clap, everybody.
Had recused
Not
himself
like budget estimates.
from cabinet meetings.
Not about 70 cents a day.
And this is about the expenditure of public monies and profiteering from the expenditure of and profiteering from the expenditure of public monies.
And you're using parliamentary procedures.
And this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity,
Senators.
quite clearly, to ask some critical questions and find out what the answers are. During the Abbott government, there's been many cabinet deliberations on childcare matters, but it also focused on three particular areas. And there's some packages that there was deliberations on the 2015-16 budget, where a new childcare package was announced with an additional $4.4 billion in funding. There are deliberations or updates on the Productivity Commission draft report 2014 and final report 2015. There's a report into childcare discussed, and childcare was discussed in cabinet. And the deliberation in 2013 when the Abbott government commissioned the Productivity Commission inquiry into childcare. So we just want to be clear. The deliberations or updates of the Productivity Commission draft report in 2014 and the final report in 2015, was that discussed in cabinet?
10 years ago, 11 years ago. Should we talk about employment services and the former Prime Minister, Mr Rudd?
I know you want to shut down these questions, legitimate questions to ask. So we've yet to receive the answers. We're yet to receive the answers. We can make conclusions after that.
You haven't asked a question about the budget.
I've asked lots of questions about the budget.
National security is directly related.
You haven't asked a question.
Order, senators. The witness needs to be able to.
I suggestion would be really clear. Coalition having a go at Senator Sheldon asking legitimate questions which go
11 years ago, seriously.
to conflict of interest and how they were dealt with, saying that we should be asking questions about the budget. As far as I can see, has there been a single cost of living or budget question from the opposition?
There hasn't been. They also,
Senators, you all know that these questions are in order. You've made your political point, so please, Senator Sheldon. And I think if our witnesses are ready to answer the question, that would be terrific.
I thought I've got an answer ready to go.
Senator, perhaps if I can just clarify. So I've just had a brief look at the ministerial standards. So under the former government, which in essence say you can hold chairs, but not in areas where that would arise to a conflict of interest. And then does make it clear that you can retain diversified investments, superannuation funds and so forth. The rule in the Code of Conduct is a little more strict, that you do need to divest yourself of shareholdings, but again you can hold diversified funds and superannuation, for example, but you need to pay close attention to make sure no conflicts arise.
but the essence of it is that you would declare that you have potential conflicts of interest.
Yes, of course.
It goes to the question whether there's actual conflicts of interest, which is the question that I'll go to. So, are you aware whether Mr Dutton recused himself from cabinet discussions in 2015-16 budget? As we know, there was an announcement of $4.4 billion in funding. There's deliberations regarding the Productivity Commission report in 2014-15 regards to childcare was discussed. And of course, there's deliberations in 2013 when the Abbott government commissioned the Productivity Commission inquiry into childcare. Are you aware whether he excused himself from there?
Well, Chair, in the first instance, could I just raise a point of order?
Yes,
could I ask you, how are these questions in order? They are questions from a Labor senator in 2025 to a Labor minister in 2025 about the conduct of ministers in a former government. How is that relevant to this government's budget estimates?
Senators, it is. I have not called any questions out of order.
Oh, then we're going to have a free-for-all from here then.
No, Senator,
I have not. If that's now the
I have not
abuse,
called any
That's now the
questions
ambit.
thus far out of order.
I mean, thus far,
Because-
since you've been chair or just this morning?
Can you stop being rude to the chair?
Senator
rude.
It's really not
McGrath.
appropriate, Senator. Why are you so disrespectful to her?
I'm not being disrespectful.
You are
You're the one
disrespectful
engaging
to her.
in mud throwing at the leader of the opposition.
Well, you are
This is a
disrespectful.
complete
We would actually
abuse
like
of the
you to make
process,
a
Senator
formal
Wong.
Don't bluster and yell.
And if you
I'm
need
not
to
blushing
take
and yelling.
advice,
This is
that
abuse
is
of
fine.
the
Disrespectful
process.
to Senator Pratt. You are consistently disrespectful to her.
No, I'm not.
Well,
Yes, you
Every
are.
time it's
Look, I'm
brought
happy
up,
to
it's bring comes to
disrespectful.
order.
It's not
I need to
okay.
make sure that we've got a Senate estimate that's been run appropriately here relating to
Senator,
11 years ago are not relevant.
okay.
Senator Sheldon.
Senator Sheldon, House, a point of order.
All of us here have a series of robust questions. In actual fact, I recall the questions that Senator Roberts were asking about matters in 2017. Also, Senator Shoebridge, a long period of time, as well as the opposition. These are critical questions that go to, budget implications through over a period of time. And in the same spirit that those other questions were asked, I'm asking these questions. If people want to not deal with possible questions of personal financial interests or share arrangements and what existed before, what exists now, I'm not drawing any conclusions as yet. I'm waiting to hear the answers. If you don't want to hear the answers to those questions,
Senator-
then keep trying to shut me down.
Senator Cash, my understanding of the standing orders, which I'm very on top of, would indicate that these questions are perfectly in order.
Chair, with all due respect, Privilege Revolution 1 in bracket 9 requires the discussion of a ruling of the Chair on the relevance of questions shall occur in a private session. So I would therefore ask that we could dissolve into private session.
So can I just be clear? Well,
Yes.
obviously that's a matter for the committee of Senator Cash. Wishes to seek a private meeting to try and shut this down. She's entitled to seek to do that. But I would just make this point. Can I just make this
which
point?
you usually always go by.
I would have thought that question, if I may, for the committee's consideration, it would seem that questions about the ministerial code would not be out of order in this committee historically, but obviously the committee will make its considerations and take advice.
Thank you, Senator Wong. We will suspend. I'll give the call to the coalition.
If I could just move to a different topic, just given time for today. Minister, is the Prime Minister still committed to voice treaty truth?
Sorry, Senator, I missed the question.
I was asking the Minister on behalf of the Prime Minister. Minister, is the Prime Minister still committed to voice treaty truth?
My recollection is that the Prime Minister's made some public statements around the voice and treaty, but I might ask Mr Excel if you could.
I'm actually asking as a matter of government policy, with all due respect, Secretary. Thank you, Minister. The question was for you on behalf of the Prime Minister.
I'm asking Mr Excel to respond.
Well, do you not have an answer on behalf of the Prime Minister as to whether or not your government is committed to voice treaty truth?
I'm asking the official to respond.
But you're the Minister sitting here on behalf
Senator,
of the Prime
I'm
Minister.
the Minister and I can direct the question where I see fit. I'm asking Mr Excel to respond.
So the Prime Minister doesn't have a view? Is it a secret?
It's usually the other way around, but anyway.
Senator, I'll ask Ms Doherty to respond.
Hi, Senator Greta Doherty, First Assistant Secretary, Social Policy Division. The government remains committed to the principles of the Uluru Statement and continues to engage in good faith with leaders and communities around next steps. I guess government acknowledges there's considerable work underway at state and territory level on treaty and truth-telling processes, and the government welcomes this work.
Thank you. So the government does remain committed to the principles of voice treaty truth. What did you say in relation to the work that continues to be underway? No, Minister, I'm more than happy now to hear from the official, seeing as you deferred to the official.
Senator, can we just take the temperature down?
Absolutely. The official was actually about to answer my question.
You don't need
that
to
was
jump
all.
in every minute. I'm just quibbling. Well, I'm pushing back on your summary of what the official said.
That's what the official says.
Ms Doherty, I think, outlined the government's position. You chose to summarise it in the way you wish, but the government's position was as outlined by Ms Doherty. Please proceed with your questions.
Senator, I was referring to work underway at state and territory levels, particularly in relation to treaty and truth-telling.
Minister, is it the policy of the government to pursue a treaty at this point in time or in the next government?
Senator, can I just say, unless the committees change the program, these would normally be questions in cross-portfolio. So I'm not here with officials. I appreciate Ms Doherty obviously assisted, but these are not questions that would usually be dealt with at this point in the program. The committee may have changed the schedule, but I wasn't aware of that.
Well, that's why the first question went to you with respect.
As representing
Senator,
the Prime Minister.
Chair, I'm asking you to...
this is a matter for the Prime Minister.
I know that you want to get everything done today. You chose the estimates program. This was at the opposition's request, this estimates program, Senator Birmingham's request. And my recollection is Indigenous matters are dealt with in cross-portfolio. I can't recall. Is that tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon? I'm so sorry? Next Friday. Next Friday, thank you. So I'd refer you to that, Senator.
Well, but with all due respect, Minister, this is in relation to government policy. You are sitting here as the Minister representing the Prime Minister. So I'm a little confused as to why you cannot answer these questions. You're either aware of government policy or you are not.
Senator, I'm pretty good at being across a lot of government policy, I think.
So you'd be aware...
But not everything. What I'd say to you is these would be questions that would usually be dealt with in the Indigenous Affairs cross-portfolio day. So I'd refer
So this
you
is...
to that.
Can I just give it... This is Prime Minister and Cabinet?
Yes, and the Indigenous Affairs, under the programs that you have agreed, Indigenous issues are held... I don't think you've ever attended, Senator.
This is a matter of government policy.
Oh, boy. Senator, can I just finish? You and I, we both had a late night. Can we just try and get through today in a reasonably respectful way?
We're perky.
I'm so sorry?
We're perky.
No, well, you might be perky. I'm quite tired, actually, but that's because we've got a lot of legislation through. I guess you only had to vote no to everything, including tax cuts. But anyway, what I would say is...
70 cents.
I'm still going.
Is that more than $5?
Would you like to give a speech or can I respond? Senator, these are matters of cross-portfolio Indigenous affairs. That is a day where we deal with Indigenous issues across government. So not just one portfolio, one minister, but across government. That has been established for some time. It was established on a cross-party basis, that arrangement in the program, some time ago. So I would refer you, these questions, to those estimates hearings which occur. I thought there was some tomorrow, but I think Senator Stewart, who would know better than I, says it's next Friday, which is the program you agreed to.
And I would note the Coalition would have had the opportunity to call those agencies today,
can I just confirm then,
had they sought to?
Chair, we are in outcome 1, is that correct?
I refer to my previous answer, Chair.
I
know that the Senator has come along she wants to do particular things, certainly no cost of living, but the issues that she's covered
this morning. You wasted $450 million on a referendum. That goes directly to
Senator,
cost of living.
Here we go again.
We didn't even talk about cost of living until after the referendum was lost.
So, Chair, could I just go back to, are we in outcome 1?
What's the best you can do?
Are we in outcome 1? So, provide high-quality policy advice and support to the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, portfolio ministers and parliamentary secretaries, including through the coordination of government activities, policy development and program delivery. How is a question about whether or not the government's policy is that they are still committed to voice treaty truth? How is it not relevant in this outcome?
Senator, Chair, if I may, the outcome is quite broad, as the Senator has read it out. However, it's been our practice to allow the portfolio agencies with the detail of the subject matter to provide the detailed answers to questions. The officials have provided the high-level statement, as Ms Doherty provided. Beyond that, I think it's appropriate this be referred to the appropriate hearing.
So with all due respect, Secretary, we're not asking for detail. We're asking merely for a yes or no answer. Is this government committed to voice treaty truth? That's it. There's no detail there, just a yes or no answer.
So again,
Senator Cash, you can't define the answer for the witness.
sorry.
Just a yes or no.
Sorry, Senator, Mr. Hare.
The official has provided the statement where I'm trying to verbal the witness, but that the principles continue to be continue to be supported, and notes the work that's being undertaken at a state and territory level. I think that's the government's position.
So, okay, could you just... So I'm not verbling anybody. The government is committed to the principles of voice treaty truth.
It's committed to the principles that underpin the Uluru Statement.
Which are?
And will continue to engage in good faith with leaders and communities to decide on the next steps at the national level. Okay. So it's an ongoing engagement.
Right. So when you say the principles, what are the principles?
Senator, I'm referring this to the Friday hearing, which has the officials who are dealing with this matter. I know you.
This is the Secretary of the Department.
You're desperate to talk this up. We all know why. But the officials who can talk you through that and who are responsible for that are appearing on Friday.
Again, Minister, with all due respect, this is not a details question. It is a simple question. Is the government's policy position that you are committed to voice treaty truth? It's a simple yes or no answer.
Senator, I know you are well known for only living in a binary universe. That is how you operate and how you think.
How is the government committed to voice treaty truth?
The answer is as...
Not a binary question.
Sorry. I know you like yes-no answers because that is how you operate. Ms Doherty and Mr Hare have outlined the government's position. I refer you to their answers, and I would ask you to do what others have done, which is to recognise that those estimates, those issues are dealt with in the cross-portfolio estimates, which you have agreed to.
Is the Prime Minister still committed to a treaty?
Senator Cash and Senator McGrath, witnesses here have an obligation to be truthful about what's within their knowledge, and that clearly means that they have the ability to make sure that the right person is answering the question when it's not within their expertise, knowledge. It's you both understand.
And that is why you direct questions to the relevant minister at the table. This is the minister, I understand, representing the Prime Minister. It is a simple policy question, nothing more and nothing less, as articulated within Outcome 1. Minister Wong, are you and the Prime Minister and the Albanese government still committed to treaty?
Well, Senator, I know what you're trying to do.
It's a yes or no answer,
Senator,
Minister.
You always want to make things into a grab.
I just want an answer.
No,
it's a very simple question. If the answer's no, then say no. That doesn't give me anything then, does it? It's no. There you go. No.
There's no point in talking. They just interrupt me, so I'm just not going to say anything for a while.
So, Minister Wong, are you and the Prime Minister still committed to a treaty?
Senator, I know that you want to reduce everything to a grab, including... are you finished, Senator? You want to reduce everything to a grab and everything to a political conflict. This is a complex area. This is an area where there has been a great, not only difference of views in the community, but also a great need for progress. A great need for progress. And it requires goodwill and trust and dialogue and respect, little of which has been demonstrated today from you in this area. Now, Ms Doherty and Mr Hare have outlined the position. Yes, it is not the grab that you want, but it is the position the government has articulated. So I refer you to their answer, and you can join others on Friday for the cross-portfolio estimates where these issues have been and can be canvassed in detail.
So is the Prime Minister committed to a treaty?
I refer you to my previous answer, Senator McGrath.
Is the Prime Minister not committed to a treaty?
Chair, this is the, if I may, this is the same question over and over again. I have now answered it, and I've done so respectfully on numerous occasions. I'd ask you to deal with this, because the repetition of the same question over and over again is not a good use of the committee's time. Well, I'm very happy to talk about other matters. I notice that not one cost of living question still has been asked by the opposition. Not one.
Is the Prime Minister ruling out a treaty?
See, still not.
Senator Wong.
Still no cost of living.
Senator Wong, on behalf of the Prime Minister,
they want to have a cultural argument.
Treaty?
They don't want to have a cost of living discussion.
Senator Wong, on behalf of the Prime Minister, will you rule out a treaty?
I refer to
Senator McGrath. Look, the Minister at the table has answered the question. I'm not going to call on her to answer the same question over and over again. So if you want just to talk about this issue and use all your time up doing that, then you may. But perhaps it might be better use of your time to move on to other topics.
Well, I have to say, on behalf of the Australian people,
you don't speak for the Australian people. You do not speak for all the Australian people. Don't be so arrogant.
I'm answering the question.
You don't speak for all the Australian people.
You're so rude,
You like people to respect you when you are talking.
Don't start on behalf of the Australian people.
Do not. On behalf of the Australian people, you wasted $1 billion
on many issues, including on this.
On your divisive referendum.
Order, Senator. That includes you, Senator McGrath, Minister Wong.
Rule out the treaty.
Okay.
They can't rule out the treaty because they're pursuing it.
Senators, you can keep asking the same question over and over again, by all means, but I won't call on the Minister to have to answer it, because the answer is the same every time. Would the Coalition still like the call, or I can return it to Senator Sheldon?
Senator Stewart,
Or Senator Stewart.
Other questions?
We've got questions, thank you. Yeah, on tab 4.
Oh, there it is. So in this term of Parliament, this government, amongst other things, you've reversed Australia's position on the capital of Israel, contradicting the position that the Israelis themselves take. You've reversed Australia's long-standing position in the UN on numerous votes and undermined Australia's decades-long and previously bipartisan position in support of a negotiated two-state solution. You've backed a resolution calling for a state of Palestine to become a member of the UN. You've adopted a policy of referring to the West Bank and Gaza as occupied Palestinian territories. You've failed to meaningfully address anti-Semitic protests and activities in our cities and our university campuses. You've failed to condemn the evil of anti-Semitism without also referring to other forms of racism, despite anti-Semitism being the most prolific form of hatred in our country. You resisted the call of your own anti-Semitism envoy to convene a national cabinet on anti-Semitism. Despicably, you've delayed criminal laws to combat doxing and then made them contingent on the passage of unannounced and unrelated privacy laws, which were supported by your political donors but opposed by doctors, business groups and media outlets ranging from News Corp to The Guardian, effectively holding support for Jewish community hostage. And worst of all, allowed a situation to develop where Jewish businesses are vandalised, cars and businesses are torched, a synagogue is firebombed and Jewish people targeted. How can Jewish Australians have faith in your government?
Well, some of that is a policy question for tomorrow, but I would say more broadly in relation to those policy questions, Senator, that they are in line with the overwhelming majority of the international community, including friends and allies, or friends and partners, I should say. The second point I'd make is that you were critical of me and the Australian government calling for a ceasefire, even when the United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, Japan, Korea were all calling for ceasefire. And you were continued to be critical of a ceasefire that President Trump sought. So I think people can understand where your position is. But I think in terms of the foreign policy point, I'm very happy to deal with those matters tomorrow. You made a number of assertions in there about anti-Semitism which were a lie. That's not true. And I know you want to do it for political reasons, but it's not true.
Which ones were a lie?
Well, to say we never condemned anti-Semitism,
I didn't actually say that. I didn't actually say that. I said failed to condemn the evil of anti-Semitism without also referring to other forms of racism,
right,
despite anti-Semitism being the most prolific form of hatred in our country. That's what I put to you.
The Lakemba celebrations or the Lakemba event on the 9th of October, both the Prime Minister condemned those, as did I. The Prime Minister, as did I, condemned what was said and the signs from memory at the Opera House rally. Just trying to recall if that was signs as well as what was said. And the Prime Minister expressed concern for rising anti-Semitism on the 9th of October 2023, visited a synagogue on the 11th of October 2023, condemned planned protests as well in October 2024. You've continued to assert or peddle a false narrative that there was no condemnation of the things that were said and done at the Opera House, and that is not true, Senator. That is not true.
I didn't mention the Opera House.
And what I would also make this point. The criticism is whenever that we would reference other forms of hate as well as anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is real. So too are other forms of prejudice. And I've never believed that saying you are against people being vilified because they are Muslim diminishes the stance one takes against anti-Semitism. And I think to suggest that it does is wrong. Now, I have seen more anti-Semitism over these last years than I've ever seen in Australia before, and that deeply grieves me because who we are as a country, this goes to who we are as a country. I have said repeatedly, as has the Prime Minister, that this anti-Semitism is an attack not only on the Australian Jewish community but on who we are as Australians. On who we are as Australians, because we are the most diverse country in the world. 1 in 2 of us is either born overseas or has a parent overseas. And we have an ethos of inclusion and respect and of peaceful disagreement. And we must hold on to that. We must fight for that. Part of doing that is in our language, accepting that our differences of views on a foreign policy issue does not mean we should be separated. We should be divided as Australians. We should have the capacity to disagree. We should have the capacity to disagree without condemning each other and certainly without vilifying each other. And I would again say to you, Senator, I do not understand, just as you did not take the advice of the Australian Federal Police, why you do not listen to Director General Burgess, who heads up ASIO, where he said turn the temperature down. Politicians have to turn the temperature down on this issue. I will always stand up against all forms of prejudice. I will stand against anti-Semitism just as I stand against Islamophobia, just as I stood against anti-Asian sentiment, as I have all my life, and the Labor Party will too. Please stop trying to play politics with this issue.
So what message does it send to Jewish Australians that you're refusing to rule out arresting the Prime Minister of Israel, who is Jewish?
Senator, I've referred to my previous answers on this. You are the only one that is trying to talk about this. I have said that is a hypothetical issue and an issue for the Attorney General.
Well, it's not a hypothetical issue.
You are the one. You don't listen to Mike Burgess, do you? He says turn the temperature down, and you consistently turn the temperature up. How is our society and our country made stronger? By trying to bring this division and conflict here.
I'm asking a
How is it, Senator?
I'm asking
I just do not understand it.
Senator,
and maybe it is because I come from, I have a migrant heritage, but I have seen over many years politicians, often from your side of politics, who've been happy to try and divide the country. I think we are stronger when we bring people together. We are stronger when we recognise that there is difference and we deal with it respectfully. We are stronger when we include all, and we are stronger when we stand together against hate. I mean, I've talked about this in the chamber. When Fraser Anning gave his first speech, horrible, both anti-Semitic and Islamophobic, talked about final solution and other abhorrent things, I said to Matthias Cormann, we should move a motion together condemning him and censuring him. And we should do it together because the parties of government should always stand together against hate and prejudice. I'm prepared to do that. Why do you want to cause division?
Senator Wong, with respect, it goes to the situation that has developed in this country because of the weak leadership of the Prime Minister, that Jewish Australians feel fundamentally unsafe because of the lack of leadership by your government that you are a senior member of. The situation where Jewish businesses are vandalised, where cars and businesses are firebombed, where a synagogue is firebombed, and it's where Jewish people are being targeted. This is not about raising the temperature. It is about standing up for Jewish Australians who feel unsafe because of the weak leadership of your government.
Well, I know it's...
And it is not... Please don't interrupt. And it is not helped when you refuse to rule out arresting the Prime Minister of the only Jewish... The Prime Minister of the only Jewish Prime Minister in the world. a democratically elected Jewish Prime Minister. You want to talk about lowering the temperature? Please, say now. Benjamin Netanyahu, come to Australia. You will be safe here. We will welcome you here. But please, don't do these, don't hide behind a word salad. Please,
Senator,
put out that mat of welcome to the Jewish Prime Minister.
Can I say to you, I know you are desperate to try and politicise these issues, and anyone watching this today and watching your behaviour over these last months would know that. You would know that we have, I would first say, Jewish Australians have a right to be safe and to feel safe. Full stop. The rise in anti-Semitism and the threats and actual violence in this country are unacceptable, and we stand against them, which is why we've established an AFP special operation, which is why we ban the Nazi salute and hate symbols. It's why we appointed Ms Segal as the first special envoy to combat anti-Semitism. It's why we criminalised doxing, which you voted against. It's why we're working with states and territories on a database to track hate crimes. It's why we've committed more money for Jewish sites across the country, including schools and synagogues. It's why we've strengthened hate speech. It's why we are moving also to upgrade the museum, the Holocaust Education Centre, the Holocaust Institute in Western Australia, and why we have provided funding to restore the Adass Israel Mosque. Adass Israel Synagogue. I want to just remind you of something that was said in the Senate. People will say hurtful and bigoted and stupid things. People will make racist, sexist and homophobic comments. The views are wrong, but the right to express them is not. If you believe in democracy, you cannot cleanse it of the view you disagree with. The best way to deal with those with whom you disagree is not force them into the shadows, but let the sunshine, let the disinfectant of light and public scrutiny judge those offensive views. So this was you, Senator, in your first speech. In your first speech, you defended the right of people to make racist comments. So don't come in here.
Don't do that, Senator Wong, with respect.
Don't come in here.
How dare you do that?
Well, don't come in here and say that people should stand up against racism.
You are lowering the tone. With respect, Senator Wong, you are lowering the tone.
You defended the right of people to be racist.
Order.
In this country, we have an
Senator McGrath.
Because of the weak leadership of you and your Prime Minister. Jewish Australians
Senator McGrath, stop shouting. We suspend.
And you are going to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel.
IPIA will be released this evening.
From today.
Just from today, not from next week. And we are waiting to find out in relation to WGEA as well. Senator Pocock.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions in relation to spending on the Australian Government consulting body. Shall I wait till they... Minister, this might be a question for you to begin with. The introduction of the Australian Government in-house consulting unit was an important step in bringing core public service business back into the APS. I note that the initial budget allocation for that was $10.9 million for AGC in the 23-24 budget. I hope I have that correct. The details in the current budget, however, are not for publication, and I would like to know why they're not for publication and seek some transparency on that spending. Minister, why would you not tell us what the number is for that facility?
So can you take me to BP2 where you're...
I'm sorry, I don't have my budget papers.
So I might be able to assist, Senator. So there's
this is the additional resourcing?
Yes. So there's a range of measures included in that, and I think the not-for-publication language that's been used is for commercial reasons. So the problem is, because they all get totalled up at some point, if we identify the individual items, you get to work out what the one that's commercial in confidence. So they are therefore grouped.
So having published the figure of $10.9 million for AGC in 23-24, why would you not publish it now? Why would you conceal it in a general sum?
So, Senator, it's part of a range of measures, which, if we identify them all individually and hold the one that we want to hold confidential, it gets to be determined by the process of subtraction.
So are you concealing... Or tell me what other measures are included in that.
The measure description, I think, goes to additional resourcing for DPM&C to support PM&C to deliver on government priorities, including national security, the continued operation of AGC, and to strengthen information technology systems, including whole-of-government systems.
So I'm guessing that there are a diverse and large number of items in there. Why would you not... Why would you include a spending on the AGC in an amorphous bucket as opposed to just telling us?
Senator, the assumption probably isn't quite right. There's not a large range of measures.
How many measures are in there?
I prefer not to say, Senator.
Why can the Australian public not know? So,
Senator,
are the other measures included, the secret ones? Like, it's a puzzle.
Can I answer in terms of principle first? Not for publication. It is not a... I can tell you as former finance minister, the range of times where government does that are not great. And usually it is driven by an assessment by finance and departments about there being compelling national interest reasons or probity reasons or commercial reasons that at this point certain funding may not be made public. Now, that doesn't mean at some point some funding may not be made public, but that decision has been made.
So is it your view... Sorry, Minister.
No.
We're talking about consulting work that's internal to the public sector being conducted by a specific agency set up within PM&C. What aspect of that operation meets the terms that you just spoke in?
I'd refer you to Mr Hare's evidence.
It's not defence. It's not...
No. I'd refer you to Mr Hare's evidence earlier.
So, Senator, because the total is available in our PBS, you can work your way back if you do a series of subtractions. So we actually group them, a small number together. So rather than identifying, just leaving one or two items unidentified, we group them, or Department of Finance groups them, and then we have a not for publication. So people can't work it out through simple mathematics.
Senator, could we turn this around? Because I think your motivations are consistent in coming to, so is what you're seeking what information you can get on the continued operation of AGC?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we're not in a position to provide that today for the reasons Mr Hare outlined.
Because you want to keep some other measure confidential, not this one, the amount of spending on something else confidential. So I don't want to play a guessing game with you. Is it larger than last spend or smaller, blah, blah. Could you provide me a briefing?
We'll try and do that. I understand what you're trying to ask him. If we can, we will.
And
it also may be a timing issue, Senator. Yeah.
So I think the Australian public, who are very interested in this matter, have a right to know what the level of government investment in this enterprise, which it is new. Does it have a continuing commitment? Is it larger or smaller? I don't want to get a briefing, which means I can't talk to the Australian community about it. The newspapers today are running stories on this. The public want to know.
No, so I think the language, so again, I don't go to exact numbers if that's okay, Senator, but I think the language includes continuing investment. So I don't think I'd read that as more or less. It's a continuing investment in AGC.
Okay, so now I feel like I'm in the Hall of Mirrors. I think I need more specificity than that, if you would, and I need to be able to talk about it. We need to be able to talk about it publicly.
Well, Senator, with respect, we will make decisions in relation to this on the basis that we've previously outlined in terms of the accounting disclosure. But I'm happy to see if we can provide you in a different context with any more information and what can be made public.
Okay. So I'm interested in the quantum, which you clearly have, which you will come back to me about. I understand,
if we
Minister.
Can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. One way or another. Has the government allocated funding to the AGC over the next 4 years?
Karen Cooper, CFO at Prime Minister and Cabinet. The funding is only for the next financial year, so it's not over 4 years.
It's for 1 year, one financial year.
So I might be able to provide some context for that, Senator. So the model for AGC has them charging fees internally for government work. So it's actually intended that they would no longer need budget appropriation at a point in time.
So after the next financial year, the government does not intend to make any specific direct allocation to the AGC. Is that correct?
At this point, there's no budget allocation for AGC beyond next financial year, with the intent that, with the it's already established intent that AGC would become able to become viable through charging for its work.
So you expect AGC to be self-funding within 12 months?
Noting that it's already had at least a year, possibly 2 years of operation, yes.
2 years of operation, of which it's generated, I understand, 3.6 million of its own work to supplement the allocation of 10.9 million over the last 2 years.
Senator, we'll keep an eye on it as it goes, but the intent is that it does become self-sustaining.
And it is your intention to have it self-sustainable. If it isn't self-sustainable, what do you think will happen within the year?
So, Senator, we'll do our usual processes. We will look at it, we'll do the analysis, and we'll talk to government about what the options are.
Minister, is it your intention that there should be an ongoing Australian government consulting function within the public sector?
I have to say that was my assumption, but I'll be honest up front with you, Senator Pocock. It's not obviously an area I've been dealing with. I'm happy to take on notice.
Right, thank you. Has there been an evaluation of the pilot stage, and what were the results, if there has been?
Senator Blair Axel, Deputy Secretary, Social Policy. My colleague, Mr Andrew Knight, I think is scheduled for tomorrow. He's got the details on the evaluations. I don't have that information yet. I think they've done some feedback stuff with relevant departments, which has all been very positive on the work it's provided, and it has provided equally, if not better, than the broader commercial sector in the areas they're working, but I don't have the details of their evaluations.
So where will I find Mr Knight tomorrow?
I think in the session with the Public Service Commission. I'll take on notice at the exact time and get back to you, sorry.
They'll be, I presume, the Minister for Finance, who's also the Minister for the Public Service.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to pursuing that. Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your answers.
Thank you. We'll just let everyone know we'll break for lunch at 12:45, and the Coalition will have the call until then.
Thank you.
Provided things are orderly, of course.
If I could just turn to a line of questioning in relation to Ukraine. On Monday the 3rd of March, a government spokesperson said to media, and I quote, "The deployment of Australian troops to support peacekeeping forces in Ukraine is not under consideration at this time." Less than 24 hours later, the Prime Minister said it was. Just to the department, when and how did the department first become aware of a proposal to commit Australian peacekeepers to the border between Ukraine and Russia?
Senator, I don't believe that characterisation is correct in our policy position.
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry, sir.
Senator, that is not a correct statement about our policy position.
I don't think the microphone's on.
Can Mr Fletcher's mic?
It's not. Yeah, it's not on.
Is it not? Is it on now? It's not you.
No.
1, 2, 3.
Try again.
1, 2, 3.
No,
it's not.
He can't. He's doing this, which I assume means it's not working, correct?
Okay. 1, 2, 3. I'll shift to them.
Yeah, perhaps go that side.
Thank you, Mr Fletcher.
What about this one? Yes.
That's better. Thank you. You don't have my natural
there the rest of the day, do I not have to answer anything?
Shall I do that?
It's not going to make any difference.
Senator, I don't believe that is a correct statement of our policy.
Oh, sorry.
I will ask Mr Titheridge to clarify.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, just what I want to explore is the government spokesperson saying the deployment of Australian troops to support peacekeeping forces in Ukraine is not under consideration, and then the statement that the Prime Minister made that it was. So I just want to explore that.
No, that's not correct. The Prime Minister said that if a request were made, it would be considered by the government.
Okay, so can we explore that then, just in terms of when and how did the department first become aware of that position by the Prime Minister?
I'll ask Mr Titheridge to respond.
Senator Dave Titheridge, Acting for Assistant Secretary International. So the Prime Minister publicly said after his phone call with Prime Minister Starmer on the 8th of March that they had discussed issues of Ukraine and the coalition of the willing.
Sorry, I missed. Could you just say at the beginning of that again?
Following a bilateral call with Prime Minister Starmer.
Yep. And that was on the 8th of March?
That's when on the 8th of March was the call.
Yes.
And the Prime Minister said it on the 9th of March, Senator.
9th of March. Okay. So 8th of March was the call. The Prime Minister made the statement on the 9th of March. So just in terms of the call itself, was there a formal request for any troops to be committed?
Senator, beyond what the Prime Minister has mentioned about the content of that call, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to reveal anything further, but I can confirm that a request for support or for peacekeeping has not been received.
Okay, not a problem. Just in terms of consultation. Did the Prime Minister consult with anybody before making the statement on the 9th of March?
I'm not aware of that, Senator.
So when you say not aware meaning no, or not aware I need to take it on notice?
From a departmental perspective, the department is not aware if that occurred.
Okay. Minister, could I ask you, just in terms of the statement made by the Prime Minister of the 9th of March, are you aware of who the Prime Minister may have consulted with, if anybody? So, for example, yourself in terms of being the Foreign Minister, the Defence Minister, the Attorney General?
Sure, I'll take that on notice.
Okay. Could I ask, in terms of your role as the Foreign Minister, did the Prime Minister consult with you?
Well, I'm not here as the Foreign Minister, I'm here as representing the Prime Minister.
Yes, but you would have...
and I don't, as Senator Payne said regularly, I don't go into discussions, but can I put it this way, I was aware of the position.
You are... that's merely
but
the answer
I would, again, I'd add a few points. The first is, as Mr Fletcher has said, the position that we have outlined is not we will, but we will consider a request. And I think it's important to do that. I would also note and appreciate that you're in opposition, that there is a distinction between what Mr Hastie has said and what Mr Dutton has said. So Mr Dutton has ruled this out and Mr Hastie has left the door open.
Minister, I understand that approximately 9 minutes ago, the department published a tweet advising that the government is now operating in accordance with caretaker conventions, and then deleted the tweet. It says, Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet at pm&c.gov.au. The government is now operating in accordance with caretaker conventions, pending the outcome on the 2025 federal election. Comments have been disabled for this period. Link to pm&c.gov.au/caretaker. Underneath is a document which says guidance on caretaker conventions.
Oh dear. It's going to be interesting to see who fesses up on this.
But are you able to confirm that?
Went live.
I wasn't aware of it until you...
No, let me say, it was tweeted and deleted.
No, well, I wasn't aware of it till you indicated. Obviously, the document is the caretaker conventions, but...
Correct. I'll ask the department then.
Here, he's looking very professional and he's about to say something.
Are we in caretaker right now?
Senator, no, we're not in caretaker right
Why
now.
did PM&C 9 minutes ago, or probably 10 minutes ago now, put online that the government is now operating in accordance with caretaker conventions?
So clearly this
Does that mean I can leave?
In all leave, exactly. Exactly. The bad news is the Prime Minister didn't get to call the election, PM&C did.
Senator,
I don't know who's running the country. Good God.
Senator, my colleagues are trying to work out why this occurred, so I will just say that obviously this is an error, and we apologise for that. It was up for a period of 4 minutes. I became aware of it approximately 9 minutes ago, and my corporate colleagues are addressing how this occurred. I can assure you we're not in caretaker. I can say that there is, of course, the guidance on the caretaker conventions, which is available on our website and has been available on our website since mid-December. So that is available. But yes, we are not in caretaker. This is clearly an error. We are trying to find out why it occurred, and we apologise.
Thank you. I could then ask you, seeing as it's your department, who seems to know how long until we're in caretaker, and has the person been told hold off for another 12 hours? But that would be facetious. Could I just ask, in the last few minutes, just some questions in relation to the PLAN warships that were circumventing Australia? Has the Prime Minister raised concerns with President Xi Jinping or the Chinese government about the live firing exercises that took place without warning and the circumnavigation of Australia by PLA vessels last month?
I'm not sure about warnings.
Senator, the government's made clear its concerns about the lack of warning or advance notification of that live fire exercises at the political level, the Foreign Minister herself, and also diplomatic level in Beijing and also through defence channels. But no, the Prime Minister has not had direct communication with Xi Jinping since that time.
That was my question. Thank you very much. So the Prime Minister hasn't raised these concerns directly at a prime ministerial presidential level. When did the Prime Minister last then communicate with President Xi?
I believe it was November last year when they met in the margins of the G20 summit.
Okay, margins of the and so the form that would take would just be a pull aside at the margins of the G20. Did you say G20
it was a bilateral meeting in the margins of the summit.
Okay. When did the Prime Minister last seek a call with President Xi?
I'll have to take that on notice.
Okay. Minister, do you have any knowledge of when the Prime Minister last sought a call with President Xi?
I think Mr Fletcher's just taken it on notice, Senator.
Okay. I was merely asking if you had any knowledge. I understand the department can take it on notice, but I was deferring to you as the relevant representative of the Prime Minister. Just in terms of the issues that we are discussing, there's been no phone call between the Prime Minister and President Xi. Has the Prime Minister raised those issues in any correspondence with the President?
No, the agreed approach, which I think I went through at length on the last occasion, was that I would raise this directly with Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and I did so in a face-to-face meeting. And we would have... I'm sorry, I was distracted for a moment, but Mr Fletcher, as the former ambassador, would be able to talk about the approach that is usually taken, which includes engagement and representations from both defence and also both in Beijing and also in Australia. But the detail of how we responded on this specific occasion would have to be dealt with by Foreign Affairs tomorrow.
Okay. Just based on that, I'm just looking through the rest of my questions then. Does the Prime Minister believe that it was concerning that Australia did not receive the advance notification from China when Pm&C did?
Senator, if I may answer, I think there was some confusion in the media about who spoke to P&G about the Chinese task group. In fact, it was Australia that briefed P&G on the arrival of the task group in our waters.
So how could we brief P&G when we didn't receive advance notification from the Chinese ourselves?
There's a distinction between what occurred and presence.
I can't hear you, sorry.
Senator, we were aware of the Chinese warships before they arrived in Australian waters. And we briefed P&G about them.
So I think the media reports that Mr.
It was media reporting that P&G heard it from the Chinese ambassador. That is, well, I have no knowledge whether there was any contact between the Chinese ambassador and the P&G government. I doubt it. They heard about it from us.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Sorry, we've only got a few minutes left, so we've just got one other line of questioning we'd just like to go through.
A report in the Saturday paper on the 15th of March revealed the government only invited the Progressive Independents, excluding the Greens, the Coalition and members of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, to a briefing on the ONI's Climate Risk Assessment Report. This briefing was held on the 9th of December 2024. Are you aware of this reporting?
No, Senator.
Well, I suppose it's to you, Minister. So,
Any response?
Deputy Secretary.
Not aware of it, Senator.
So, can you confirm this briefing took place?
I said I'm not aware of it. I need to check with relevant officials.
So, did Prime Minister and Cabinet coordinate this briefing?
Sorry, Senator. If the briefing was done by ONI, they would normally arrange the briefing themselves.
Senator Kendra Maroney, First Assistant Secretary, National Security, just confirming that we're not aware of that briefing. So
Prime Minister and Cabinet had no role in coordinating the briefing or organising it or anything like that?
That's correct.
It's all good. Thank you. An easy one for you.
Very briefly then, in the final few minutes, can I go to just questions in relation to the 60 Minutes report on Sunday the 16th of March in relation to further revelations of the infiltration of the CFMEU by organised crime. Minister, has the Prime Minister watched the recent 60 Minutes report?
Sorry, I came prepared for budget questions. I will take on notice whether he, I believe he's made public statement about it, so I'd refer you to that.
Is the Prime Minister planning to write to the CFMEU Administrator in relation to what was raised in the report?
Senator, again, I'm not sure what the actions of the Prime Minister are here, but what I'd say is this is a matter that should be dealt with in the due estimates. The responsible minister is Minister Watt from recollection.
No, I understand that, but I'm asking what the Prime Minister's knowledge is, given the seriousness.
Sorry, Senator, you asked the question about whether he would write. Normally the relevant minister would write.
No, I understand that, but this is not a normal situation. These were very serious allegations. There was a woman that was being bashed by a health and safety representative, and that was screened across Australia's televisions. I will also obviously ask about it in due, but I'm just asking the level of the Prime Minister's knowledge, whether or not he has watched it, and I think Minister Wong has said she will take that on notice, and whether or not the Prime Minister is planning to write to the CFMEU Administrator in relation to this.
Senator, these are matters for due. I would make the point first. We all stand against violence against women, and the violence and allegations was unacceptable. Secondly, I understand the allegations would not have come to light without the investigation initiated by the Administrator, and that they have been referred to the AFP. I would say to you, and I appreciate that I would say to you that these are matters that should be dealt with in due. In relation to the Prime Minister's engagement, as I said, I would refer you to his public comments. I don't have them in front of me that I can see at this point, but I know that he was asked about them. And I don't know. I believe he was asked about them, and I'd refer you to those comments.
Senators, it's now, and witnesses and Minister, it's now time for lunch, and we will reconvene at 1:45.
Monday.